I guess in my introduction, I did forget to give my qualifiers, so that might have been a little jarring for those of you that don't know me. Uh, I love to teach first person. So whenever I'm teaching a topic, and I do this a lot with different world religions or philosophies, I try to enter into that headspace or the perspective of what I'm trying to teach. And so I really appreciated this video. And yeah, it was not trying to be balanced or anything else. It was just trying to give a very strong atheist position and the many advantages of being an atheist over a theist of some sort. I saw you guys making your comments as we were watching the video. There were some good ones. And right, there wasn't a lot of nuance. There wasn't any dualism, any either ors. But remember, most atheism is fixed in a naturalistic, materialistic world view. And in that world view, only the physical material world exists. You have a brain, you don't have a mind. You have a body, you don't have a soul. You are a physical material being that will perish when your mortal frame goes back to the earth from whence it came. I loved a lot of what he had to say. Some of it was kind of tongue in cheek, maybe. Any comments from you all from the video? Things you liked or things you'd like to refute before we move on?
I'm very curious if the person who made that video was raised with religion and if they were like what it was or what they were exposed to.
I would say chances are yes. And even though this is an older video, I bet they're still taking video responses if any of you want to engage with them.
I have a thought. One of my best friends from college, you know, she didn't believe in God. She was an atheist.
Mhm.
But the reason for her is because, you know, that one of the nights, like her mom, they saw her mom leave the house. In the morning, they found out she threw herself from the San Francisco Bridge. So they were little, her and her sister. So her lack of belief in God, it was this resentment of why would God allow my mom to kill herself? So the perspective here from this gentleman seems really coming from a good place. So
Mhm.
there's probably different reasons why people are atheist, you know?
Right. No, that's so excellent. And that's exactly why I showed this, Les. It's the problem of evil. How could a loving God let my mother kill herself or bring herself to that point? And what the atheist is saying is the atheist doesn't have to ask those kind of questions. It was just a horrible thing. Maybe it was a chemical imbalance. Maybe she was abused. I mean, there could have been so many different factors, but they're not looking to blame a deity for their own tragedy.
Yeah.
And I get that. But with that means they also don't have a deity to hope in or to appeal to. But the trade-off is they also don't have a deity to blame or to be resentful towards.
Yeah, I just a quick
Good to see you again.
hi. So I think that this video portrayed the atheist as the best atheist and the worst theist, because there are atheists who don't, really care.
Right. No,
But
this
so
was a very kind and gentle
yeah,
atheist.
yeah,
Yes.
and that what atheists might fear is just what happens. They might fear death simply
Mhm.
because it ends and it ends, and people who believe they believe that they're going somewhere nice, better. So that's just my little two
Yes.
cents.
Thank you.
I found it really interesting how he drew the line when he said, you can do whatever you want, but I don't mean like killing or he said murdering or something. And I was just like, well, where does the line, what
Yes.
is that, distinction?
I thought the exact same thing. It's like, well, why not? I mean, what are you basing your morality on? And that becomes a real big problem. In my ethics course, we talk about different ways to evaluate a variety of ethical theories, but you can imagine how difficult that task is because we're already all housed in a certain perspective ethically. And when we look at other ethical theories, we're judging them based on our own personal ethic or the values we were brought up or enculturated in. And what they were claiming, one of the criteria they said, how well does your action line up with your internal moral compass? But the people writing this ethics textbook or anthology for the most part, secular humanist or atheist. And I'm just wondering, well, what kind of internal moral compass exactly do you think we have? Because they rattled off the same list, like we all know it's wrong to rape or steal or murder. And I'm thinking, well, maybe someone should have let the Vikings know that. And I don't think they had all this moral angst when they got home from a raid thinking, oh, I can't believe we did that to those people. They were celebrated as heroes and they were bringing all the loot and they got status in their society for, from our perspective, we would consider horrible atrocities. And so I'm like, well, where is this universal ethic or moral coming from that you're trying to line up with? And I think that is a real problem for atheists. And I'm not saying atheists can't be ethical or moral people. I think some of them are incredibly ethical or moral people. But appealing to like some innate evolutionary form of morality, that doesn't really fit with that materialistic worldview. Or the ethic would be quite egocentric or reason-based. Those would be your other choice. Although you could even have like a secular humanist ethic, and that sounded like that guy, where he's like, hey, it's my species. I want to be kind to my species, and it's my planet. I live here. I want to treat it respectfully. So you could come to quite a spectrum, even within the atheist perspective. But whoever made that comment of they portrayed atheism as very kind, noble, and gentle, and religion as very enslaving and bondage and degradation, that was true. That was his perspective. But I loved it for the contrast.
Yeah, it's interesting because like Stalinist Russia
Oh my goodness.
was an atheist society, and I think most people know how that went. It seemed a lot like he was looking for someone to blame, and to me, that's kind of like a diffusion of responsibility, right?
Yes.
Instead of like taking personal responsibility for your circumstances. It's like if you have a boss at work, it's like, oh well, if there's a boss, why aren't people doing their jobs? It's like I thought there was a boss. I guess there must be no boss.
Right.
But everyone knows that. I mean, if you've ever managed people, that getting people to do what they're supposed to do is extremely difficult. But
Yes.
that's all I got.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, and that was even one of his points he talked about atheists was their like ability to exercise this like internal sense of morality and self-control. And I was just thinking, wow, but it's based on such a tiny perspective, like your own. And we're not that big in the cosmos. But all of his moral judgments are basically coming from his own perspective in that video. And I mean, I don't know that even one person could do that, but how do you get an entire society of people who are all living by their own ego-driven moral compass? I mean, that sounds like you're back to the tooth and claw of nature once again. And okay, let's go onward. So denying premise one, that's one solution.